before knocking on Orm's doorbell, feeling a little nervous but confident in the decision she had made. After a few seconds, the door opened, revealing a middle-aged man with a friendly face. Orm's father, Tanakorn, greeted Tanakorn, looking surprised yet pleased at the young man's arrival. Sawadika, Kung Fu, bowed politely, giving Orm's father a genuine smile of respect. Sawadi, Tanakorn replied, a warm smile on his face. You've come to pick Orm up for college, yes? He asked familiarly. Yes, Kung Fu. However, there's something else I would like to discuss with Kung Fu and Kun Mei, replied, her tone polite yet firm. Tanakorn raised an eyebrow, a little curious about Min's intentions, but she smiled. Come in then. We can talk while we wait for Orm. After breakfast, he went back to his room to get ready. Thank you, Kung Fu, Min said in a calm tone. Following Tanakorn into the house, they headed to the living room and Tanakorn motioned for Min to sit on the sofa. Not long after, Meikoi, Orm's mother, emerged from the kitchen. Oh, Min, she greeted with a friendly smile, seemingly happy to see their guest. Sawadika, Kun Mei, Min replied with a nod and a respectful smile. Tanakorn briefly explained to his wife, Min would like to speak with the two of us. While waiting for Orm, Meikoi sat beside her husband, looking at Min with curiosity. Curiosity, what do you want to talk about, son? Min took a deep breath, preparing to make her point. With her eyes looking directly at Tanakorn and Meikoi, she began to speak. I'm here to discuss my engagement with Orm. I want to cancel it. Min's words echoed in the living room, taking Tanakorn and Meikoi by surprise. Their expressions changed, as if it was difficult to accept the reality that had just been revealed by the young man they already knew and trusted. Ha! Exclaimed Tanakorn and Meikoi simultaneously. They stared at each other as if seeking understanding from each other. Meanwhile, on the stairs, Orm, who was about to descend, heard their conversation. His steps halted, his body freezing, not expecting that Min would reveal that in front of her parents. As his gaze met Min's, he felt a mixture of nervousness and resignation. Min immediately called out to Orm, sit with me. Orm, let's finish this together. Orm nodded slowly and walked over. He sat beside Min without saying a word, his face slightly pale but still calm. Min repeated her words more clearly as I said, I want to cancel the engagement with Orm. Orm, who was feeling a little uneasy, whispered softly to Min, Min, is this the right time to say it? Min just smiled a little and replied calmly, calm down. I don't want to delay this any longer. Today is the right time. Tanakorn, who still did not fully understand the situation, asked in a thoughtful tone, why do you want to cancel? Did you guys have a fight or some other problem? Min shook her head softly, looking at Tanakorn with eyes full of honesty. No, Kung Fu. It's not because of a fight or any problems. I want to be honest with Kung Fu and Kun Mei. I don't like women. I am gay. Orm knew this from the beginning, and I asked him to pretend to be in a relationship to cover this up. The room was silent for a moment. Tanakorn and Meikoi looked at each other, their expressions shocked and confused at the unexpected confession. Min could see the various emotions raging on their faces. I'm sorry for lying. Moreover, I brought Orm into the situation, Min said again, her tone full of regret. She looked down, feeling a little guilty for making Orm's parents surprised. After a moment, Tanakorn took a deep breath. trying to accept and understand what she had just heard. "Do your parents know about this?" he asked in a calmer voice. Min nodded firmly. "I told them before coming here. They were surprised at first, but they promised to slowly accept me as I am, as long as I am happy." Tanakorn let out a long breath, her face showing a mixture of understanding and disbelief. "I didn't expect to hear this from you, Min." Meanwhile, Orm could only bow his head, feeling increasingly tense amidst the silence that enveloped the room. Min continued, "Once again, I apologize. I hope Kunfuin can make and accept my explanation. I consider Orm as my own brother. I want to see Orm happy with the person he truly loves. I also hope Kunfuin can make and accept Orm as he is." Tanakorn nodded slowly, beginning to understand Min's explanation. "Thank you for opening up to us. It may come as a shock, but we will try to accept slowly." Orm looked at his parents with teary eyes, feeling a mixture of relief and emotion at their growing acceptance. Min smiled softly, feeling slightly relieved after hearing the response from Orm's parents. "Thank you, Kunfu, Kunmei. I really appreciate your understanding." After finishing a serious conversation with Orm's parents, Min and Orm walked towards the car parked in front of the house. Their small steps were heavy, especially after the tension-filled conversation and mixed feelings. Once they reached the car, Orm suddenly stopped his steps, taking a deep breath as if gathering courage before speaking. "Thank you for explaining everything, Pimin," Orm said softly, his eyes looking glassy. He then embraced Min in a warm hug, as if expressing unspoken gratitude and relief through words. Min returned the hug, gently rubbing Orm's back affectionately. "You're welcome, Nong. It's my duty to resolve this matter and make sure everything is clear," she replied with a comforting smile. Orm pulled away slightly, but still stood close to Min. "But Kunfu still can't seem to accept everything. I'm worried that he'll set me up with someone else." His voice sounded fragile, a fear that could not be hidden. Min looked at Orm with a look of conviction. "Take it easy, Orm. I'm sure with time Kunfu will understand. He loves you very much, and he will slowly accept your decision," Min said softly. Hoping to calm Orm's anxious heart, Orm nodded slowly, releasing her embrace with a sense of relief. I hope so too," he said in a small, barely audible voice, his eyes looking down. Min took a deep breath, then gently rubbed Orm's shoulder. "One problem is solved, and now let me take care of the other. I'll make sure everything is in order," Min said, trying to calm himself down. Orm sighed and shook his head slightly. "But Pimin, for that other matter, I don't think we can rush things. We need to wait for the right time and be careful," he said, biting his lip in worry. Min gave Orm a confident look, nodding firmly. "Trust me, Nong. I'll handle all of this, and I'll make sure that you and Ling are safe. There's nothing for you to worry about," he said firmly but with a gentle, soothing tone. Orm smiled a little and looked down. "Thank you very much, Pimin. I'm so grateful to have someone like you by my side," he said sincerely. Min returned the smile, then nodded. "Well, how about we leave now?" she asked as she opened the car door for Orm. Orm nodded enthusiastically. "Let's go," he called out, entering the car with a smile that now seemed more relieved. Min closed the car door after Orm got in, then walked quickly to the driver's side. Once he was seated, He started the car's engine and began to drive, taking Orm towards the campus with a lighter feeling, as if the weight on their shoulders was gradually being lifted. In a luxurious hotel, the night was full of splendor. Crystal chandeliers glittered, painting an elegant scene for the Mahidol University alumni reunion. The guests seemed to mingle in happiness and nostalgia, greeting each other and exchanging stories. Ling, one of the alumni, attended the event despite her lack of excitement. The invitation from her friends made it hard for her to refuse, especially since this reunion was attended by friends she had not seen since graduation. Showing the invitation card at the main door, she stepped inside, looking around with a gaze searching for a familiar figure. Ling, a voice called out from the crowd. Ling saw someone waving. Without thinking, she walked over to the direction of the call, finding Charlotte, one of her close friends. "I thought you weren't coming," Charlotte said, smiling in relief to see Ling. Ling nodded slightly. "Events like this are rare, so I decided to come." Beside Charlotte, Engfa held out a glass of drink to Ling. "That's amazing. It was really hard for us to persuade Lingling Kwong to come." "Don't exaggerate," said Ling to Engfa, who took the glass and took a small sip. "What time does this event start?" she asked. "Probably a little later," replied Enda, their other friend. Ling nodded in understanding, her eyes still watching the surroundings, until her gaze stopped on two figures who had just entered the room. One of them was Orm, in a graceful red dress, her hair flowing beautifully. Orm's presence exuded an elegance that captivated Ling. It had been a long time since she last saw Orm up close like this. On the other hand, Orm didn't seem too aware of Ling's presence. He came with Ying, following Ying's steps casually. They soon joined Ling's group. "Hi," everyone greeted Ying with a friendly smile. "Ying, long time no see." "Look," he greeted Ying warmly, trying to break the awkward ice. You joined the group in greeting Ying and are slightly surprised to see Orm. A little surprised to see Orm. "How are you, Ying? Do you know, Orm, that you came together?" you asked, continuing the conversation. "I'm doing well." Ying smiled, one arm wrapped around Orm's waist. "We're very close." Ling's gaze immediately hardened at the interaction. Although she tried to keep a neutral expression, the heat in her chest could not be hidden. However, she remained silent and listened to their conversation. "This world is pretty small," you said with a light chuckle. "So how are you, Norm? We haven't seen each other for a while," you ask Orm. Orm smiles awkwardly. "I'm fine, Fi. I'm busy with my studies right now." That's it. Their brief conversation was interrupted when the MC of the event gave the opening remarks. Thunderous applause filled the room. The faces of the alumni looked happy and enthusiastic. However, that expression was nowhere to be seen on Ling. Her eyes were still glued to Orm, who was now engrossed in a conversation with Ying. As the program continued, Ling, who had been sitting watching Orm from earlier, saw Orm go to the toilet. He put his drink glass on the table and stood up from his seat. With slow steps, Ling followed him. In front of the toilet, she waited, and when Orm came out of one of the stalls, he was surprised to see Ling standing there. "Peeling," said Orm in a surprised tone. "Do I look creepy to you now?" Ling looked at him, trying to read the expression on Orm's face. Orm flinched slightly, but replied calmly, "No." Peeling, he stepped towards the main door, but his steps were halted when Ling stood in his way. Ling approached, her voice low but sharp. I know Min is gay and won't be able to get engaged to you. Orm, who was washing his hands in the sink, said nothing in response to Ling. Tell me, are you really going to get engaged to him? And why did you come with Ying? Ling asked many questions while looking at Orm. That's none of Vi's business, Orm replied firmly. I told you, we have nothing more to talk about. Ling sighed, trying to contain her emotions. I just want to talk to you. Why are you always avoiding me? Didn't I say there's nothing more to talk about between us? Orm replied in a firm voice, trying to push Ling's body away. However, Ling gripped Orm's hand firmly. Give me a chance, Orm. How much do I have to pay for you to talk to me? Ling urged, unconsciously letting out hurtful words. Hearing that, Orm fell silent, his eyes glazed over, his gaze piercing Ling's heart. I'm not something Fi can buy with money, Orm replied, trying to remove his hand from Ling's grip. Ling realized he had said the wrong thing. I'm sorry, Orm. I didn't mean it, she said softly, but Orm was already hurt. Orm walked away, but Ling didn't want to let him go. He followed Orm out of the restroom, trying to hold back his hand again. Let go of me, Fi, Orm said firmly as he tried to let go of Ling's hand. I won't let you go until you listen to me, Ling retorted, clutching Orm's hand even more. However, Ying's voice broke the atmosphere. Didn't Orm ask you to let go? Ying approached, looking at Ling with a sharp glare. Ling looked at Ying with displeasure. This is my business with Orm. You don't need to interfere. Ying smiled sarcastically. If it concerns Orm, then it's my business too. Who are you to interfere in Orm's business? Ling asked, looking at Ying. Ying folded her arms in front of her chest and smiled faintly. I'm Orm's girlfriend, she said casually. I don't believe a word you say, Ling retorted, laughing a little because it felt like a joke to her. Let me prove that it's true, sighed Ying, with a challenging tone. Ying approached Orm and suddenly kissed Orm's lips in front of Ling. Orm was startled. His eyes widened, but he was too shocked to react. When Ying broke the brief kiss, he turned to Ling. Now you believe, don't you? She said in a cocky tone. Ling was speechless, unable to say a word. It broke her heart to see Orm just standing there stiffly, without rejecting the kiss. Stinging gnawed at her heart, but she couldn't say anything. From now on, stop bothering Orm, Ying warned, then took Orm's hand. Come on, let's go. Orm bowed his head, following Ying out of there. Ling stood where she was, staring at their retreating backs, tears beginning to fall down her cheeks. Sometimes Ling really wanted to give up fighting because Orm wouldn't let her talk for a while, and even thought that Orm didn't love her anymore. But in her heart of hearts, Ling believed that Orm still loved her, and that's what made her not give up easily. Even though problems kept coming into their relationship, all the way home, Orm just silently stared out the car window. Not a word came out of his lips to talk to Ying. His mind was wandering, caught up in the mixed feelings after the incident. Ying, who since the incident had only obeyed Orm's will to take her home, chose to remain silent. She occasionally glanced at Orm, as if looking for the right time to start a conversation, but hesitated. The car finally stopped in front of Orm's apartment.